9mm versus 40 Smith & Wesson and subcompact pistols. What I have today is our Sig Sauer V-Crown Elite Defense ammunition. So I'm going to use my Taurus G2C pistols with 3.2-inch barrels to test these rounds. So our 9mm is a 124 grain. It is rated at 1165 feet per second, 374 foot-pounds energy, it says on the box. And our 40 Smith & Wesson is a 180 grain jagged hollow point. It's rated at 985 feet per second, 388 foot-pounds energy, as stated on the box. So I have tested this round in the past, and it seems to be a pretty powerful round, even though it is a standard pressure. I don't think I've tested that 40 Smith & Wesson. I'm not really sure though, but basically I know there is a version of this 9mm that's meant for CCW, meant for a subcompact pistol, but I don't believe there's one in 40 Smith & Wesson. So I'm going to use the original versions here to keep this test pretty fair. So we're going to see what we get here. Subcompact pistols, 9mm versus 40 Smith & Wesson Sig Sauer. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. We're going to go to the plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. The reason why I started doing that is because using the denim protocol right away, sometimes you get clogged hollow points, so we can never see what that hollow point is supposed to look like expanded. So I like to go into just plain clear ballistics, no denim or anything like that. See what we get for a hollow point expansion, then do more of a real world simulation. So today I'm going to do 4 layers of sweatshirt material on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, I'll have a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard right here to represent hitting ribs or sternum into the clear ballistics block. That'll be more of our real world simulation. So we'll do plain clear ballistic shot and then real world simulation. And then I'm going to shoot at the steel target to see what kind of accuracy and recoil control I can get with both of these, see if there's a big difference. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 9mm. We're rated at 1165 feet per second, probably through a 4-inch barrel. Let's see how I get here in my 3.2-inch barrel. See how close I can get to 1165 feet per second. I'm about 5 yards from that target. Let's see what we get with our 9mm. $1,079. 1,090, 1,077, 1,060, 1,062. So not too bad. That's pretty standard velocity that you see with the 124 grain through a short barrel. So not too bad overall. Now our 40 Smith & Wesson here, we are rated at 985 feet per second. Probably through a 4-inch barrel again. But let's see what I get here. My little subcompact pistol. $954, $934, $960, $937, $933. So that's about what I would expect also. So not too bad overall. So let's hit our ballistics gel block, see how these compare. All right, first up our plain clear ballistics shot, our best potential here. Let's see what we get with our 9mm. All right, let's hit that with our 40 Smith & Wesson. Let's go take a look. All right, not bad performance overall, to be honest. Here we have expansion with both of them, but our 40 Smith & Wesson, obviously with the heavier bullet, we have more momentum. That's going to push that bullet a little bit deeper. Good expansion with both, good damage with both. Our first 3 inches has about the same amount of energy dump, I would say. 9mm on the bottom, 40 Smith & Wesson on top. A good tearing with our 9mm. We went to a penetration of about 13.5 inches of penetration. Camera parallax will make it look like that track might be a little further up than where it is, but yeah, 13, just shy of 13.5 inches. Now our 40 Smith & Wesson, a lot more damage going on in there, a lot bigger tearing, which would indicate that's a lot bigger expansion going on. We have a penetration of 17.5 inches, so that did pretty well for our 40 Smith & Wesson. We got really deep penetration without over penetrating, a lot more damage. So let's put on our denim, put it in our MDF, and see how they compare in more of our real world simulation. I did say denim, but I mean sweatshirt material. I'm out of denim, so I've been using a sweatshirt because I feel like that's just as realistic as using denim. So 9mm, 4 layers of sweatshirt material, 3 inches of clear ballistics, a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard. Let's see what we get here with our 9mm. All right. See what our 40 Smith & Wesson does. Let's go take a look. All right, very interesting performance here. It may look like these paths intersect, but they actually do not. The 40 Smith & Wesson is back behind that 9mm track going this way. So they're not touching, but what we're seeing here is very similar performance going through our medium density fiberboard. So we went through our denim, and then our first 3 inches, what we got going on here is our 9mm on the bottom, our 40 on the top. Actually looks like a little more energy dump with our 9mm. Going through our medium density fiberboard here, pretty similar. The size of the holes look the same, so that would indicate our 9mm is probably starting to expand out a little bit, and our 40 Smith & Wesson's having maybe a little trouble there doing that. But when we look at our damage paths and the tracks and the cutting, they pretty much look the same. I think our 40 might be a little bigger right here, but I mean, overall, I would say about the same. These bullets look like they could potentially be backwards, which might indicate some tumbling. So what we got is some bullet nose deformation, I think, with both of them. But it looks like potentially a little more expansion with our 9mm because we had more velocity. But we got basically the same penetration with both. Our 9mm went to about 19 3/4 inches. I would not consider that over penetration because clear ballistics is a little bit less dense than organic gel, and we went through the MDF, which lowered that expansion. So not too bad. 19 3/4, I believe. And our 40 Smith & Wesson is more like 19.5 inches of penetration. Now it did curve down a little bit, which might indicate that it might have went a little deeper if it went straight. It does look like one side of the petals on that 40 Smith & Wesson is deformed a little bit. So you know, it's kind of hard to judge this because in our plain clear ballistics, our 40 did a lot better, but going through our denim and our MDF, it looks like just that little extra velocity, that extra 100 feet per second, 150 feet per second with that 9mm made the difference in how it expanded. So I would say going through the MDF, our more real world simulation, our 9mm did better here, but they're very, very similar. So let's pull these out of the block. We'll take a close-up look at them, and then I'll shoot our steel, see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets going through plain gel. Here's our 9mm. Really fantastic expansion. It looks like a pretty good bullet design for what it is. Really big expansion, really big petals and all of that. Our 40 Smith & Wesson looks a little bit bigger. The design of the bullet looks a little bit different. Fantastic expansion. This did a lot more damage and pushed a lot deeper than our 9mm just because it is a heavier bullet, so you're going to have a little more momentum there and a lot more base of that bullet there just to truck along and do pretty good. Now going through our medium density fiberboard, our 9mm shrunk down quite a bit. Pretty typical for bullets to do this, you know. They'll still expand, but they won't expand nearly as well as what they would in plain gel. You know, you clog that with denim, you hit that MDF, causes a little bit of problem. But overall, that's not too bad a performance. We didn't really over penetrate in my mind, and we still had pretty good expansion going on. Now, our 40 Smith & Wesson here, I haven't measured these yet. I'm willing to bet, even though this doesn't look very good compared to the 9mm, I'm willing to bet the expansion is every bit as big around. Those 3 petals sticking out, or 2 petals, are probably as wide as the expansion of that 9mm. It just doesn't look all that good. But our penetration was pretty much spot on the same as that 9mm. So not a huge difference here in what we got in subcompact pistols, you know, either or. But our 9mm did have less recoil, and there's a couple extra rounds of capacity that might matter to some people. So that's a close-up look at those bullets. All right, 12 yards from the target, so I'm just going to get a sight picture and pop these off as fast as I think I can hit the target. It did seem like when I was chronographing these rounds, I started out a lot more accurate with our 9mm. This seems like a pretty accurate round, so let's see how I get here from 12 yards with our 9mm. All right, pretty consistent feeling just for popping them off and letting it come back down. You gotta understand, I'm not even looking at those sights when I do that. The first shot I was looking at the sights, and then I'm just kind of having it come back down and I'm pulling that trigger again. So if I don't mention that, a lot of people will start complaining, well, I shoot from 10 yards and I group the size, you know, 1-inch group. And it's like, that's nice, but that's not what I'm doing. So just thought I'd make a mention of that. So 40 Smith & Wesson, let's see how I can do with this from same distance here, same technique. With that, I did pull one high. This one I did have to take a look at the sight each time it was coming back down because it did not match my normal muscle memory, because there's a little more muzzle jump with this, and my support hand started to slide off the pistol a little bit more, but overall not too bad. It was pretty easy to control. So let me back it up just a little bit. All right, 40 yards from the target. This is the same distance Eli Dicken was when he stopped a mass shooter in an Indiana mall in 2022, I believe it was. Might have been 2023, but 40 yards from the target, he was using a cheap subcompact pistol. And I'm not going to do the Dicken drill, but since I am using cheap subcompact pistols, I think it is fitting to shoot from 40 yards and see how these things will do for me. So 9mm here. Let's see how I get with this. 40 yards. Wow, that's aiming really well too. Alright, so I think these may be shooting a lot to the right for some reason. Let me aim quite a bit left on that steel. So basically those last hits I made, I was aiming high. I was aiming at basically the left shoulder. So even though these were very accurate up close, the point of impact has dramatically shifted. That's interesting. 40 Smith & Wesson. I'll aim center mass and see where these things hit. Alright, so yeah, I did group some in a similar area, and they are shooting just a tad high from my point of hold with those, but I would say at that distance we are a little more accurate with the 40 Smith & Wesson. So really this is really a trade-off here. At first, before I did this 40-yard drill, I was going to say our 9mm was a little bit better because kind of doing the same thing with a little less recoil, a little more capacity, but that accuracy is a little bit odd, and I felt more consistent with my accuracy with the 40 Smith & Wesson. So here what I'm going to say is I think it really is just a trade-off here. One's not like a lot better than the other one, to be honest, here from what I'm seeing. Our 9mm is a little easier to control, so I guess you could say that's the better option because it's a little easier to control that recoil and rapid fire. But our 40 Smith & Wesson seemed more consistent overall with its accuracy and what I expected it to do. And we had a lot of damage in that first clear ballistic shot, which would indicate, if you're not hitting, a clothing barrier or a rib barrier, that 40 is probably going to do a little more damage than that 9mm. But looking at all of this here, both are very, very similar here, and I'm not seeing a huge, strikingly better benefit to using the 40 Smith & Wesson and this particular ammo. Now, one thing you have to understand here is a lot of people will take what I'm saying as a generalization of cartridges. And is the 40 Smith & Wesson more powerful? Does it do more damage? Is it better than the 9mm in general, especially with a lot more warmly loaded ammo? And the answer is absolutely yes. It is a fantastic cartridge. Cartridge is a lot better than the 9mm, but sometimes ammo companies don't load it to its potential, but they do load the 9mm to its potential, and then you rob some of that velocity in a short barrel, and what you come out with is basically the same performance. So in this instance with Sig Sauer V-Crown ammo, our 9mm, I would say, is a little bit better option because it's a little easier to control for its shootability, recoil, and all of that. So not a big difference here. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.